By far the most impressive team to me so far this season definitely has to be the Memphis Grizzlies. Coming to the season, I thought the Grizzlies would be a team that would maybe compete to make the playoffs like they were last season, maybe make it in as an 8th, 7th seed at best, but they're taking a major step to being one of the better teams in the conference. At the making of this video, they have a 29-14 record. They're on a 10-game win streak. They just beat the #1 team in the league, the Golden State Warriors, even when Klay Thompson returned, and they're currently the 4th seed in the Western Conference. Their amazing play has led me to make this video where I'm just going to be talking about everything positive the Grizzlies have done so far this season. Also, I'm just going to be answering some questions of whether or not I think the Memphis Grizzlies are real title contenders. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out. Most impressive thing to me, at least, from the Grizzlies so far this season definitely has to be their offense, because last year and in previous years they weren't like a terrible offense or anything like that, but they definitely were an average to below average offense, and what made them good was their defense. But this season, the reason they've been so much better is because they've gone from an average at best offense to being one of the most elite offenses in the league. At the making of this video, they are the 5th ranked offense in the league, and honestly I didn't see them taking too much of a big step on offense, because this offseason they didn't make any huge additions besides trading Jonas Valanciunas for Steven Adams. And originally when I had seen that trade, I thought the Grizzlies actually got worse on offense, since Valanciunas was their 2nd leading scorer and they were trading for a guy in Adams who barely averages 10 points. But so far this season they have definitely been way better, and honestly I think it's because a lot of the key guys on this team have really improved. The first guy we always have to talk about when it comes to improving on this team is Ja Morant, who honestly should be in MVP conversations right now with the way he's playing. Right now he's playing like a top 5 point guard in the league. He's definitely looking like a future superstar. Last season a lot of people were calling him overrated, to the point where he became underrated. I'm not gonna lie, I was starting to think he was a little bit overrated until I seen him average 30 points in the playoffs against the best defense in the league. But what he's been doing this season is just absolutely fantastic. I wish I could have said I expected him to play this well, but I did expect him to play better, but not this good. He's literally averaging 25 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field and 38% from 3. It's not like he's just shooting 1 3-pointer a game. He's literally shooting 4 a game, which is a decent sample size. He has also taken his game to the next level. He's been way better at finishing at the basket. His 3-point shot has become an actual thing that the defense has to pay attention to, because before he was actually a bad shooter. Now I would say he's a good 3-point shooter. Ja Morant is definitely top 7 in the MVP conversations right now, but Ja is not the only guy on this team who has stepped up. Desmond Bane, who was a late 1st round pick for the Grizzlies in 2020, has really improved himself and put himself in the most improved player talks. Last season, I claimed he was one of the most underrated rookies, because straight out the gate, he was already a very good role player, very good 3-point shooter, very solid defender. And to be honest, I never really saw him taking a huge leap. I thought he would just be a solid role player guy for the whole of his career. But he's been proving me wrong this season. He's taking the leap to actually being a legit scorer. He's become one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. A guy who can actually get buckets, creating his own shot, not just catch and shoot shots. He's doing step backs. He's driving to the rim, creating his own shot, creating plays for others. I never would have thought Desmond Bane would be someone who's going to be shooting step back threes and sometimes scoring an ISO situation, things like that. But he has been the Grizzlies' 2nd best player this season, and so far this season he's averaging 18 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, while shooting 47% from the field and 42% from 3. One of the best shooters in the league. He's nearly 50-40-90. He's only a few percentages off. He's also a really good finisher, just due to how strong he is. He literally looks like a bodybuilder. He looks like he's playing the wrong sport at times. He definitely has been their 2nd best player, and there was a little stretch where Ja Morant was injured for 10 games, and he was the reason why Memphis didn't fall absolutely off a cliff without Morant. He was the reason that they were actually winning games without Ja Morant. I don't think he's an all-star or anything like that, but I do think at this current moment he's just been absolutely hooping. Definitely deserves a lot of credit from me. you were gonna tell me that someone besides John Morant stepped up on this Grizzlies team, I would have thought you were gonna tell me Jaren Jackson Jr., but to be honest, he's kind of done the opposite. He simply hasn't been as good as I and many people were hoping he could be. He hasn't been terrible or anything like that. Like, he hasn't been an absolute bum, but he just hasn't been that all-star level guy who most people thought he could be, and like what he showed like earlier in his career. Because I thought he could be one of the best defenders in the league while being a guy who could give you like 18 to 20 points. And to be fair, he's not off from giving you 18 to 20 points, as he's averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds. But the problem is he's shooting 40% from the field and 32% from 3. Those are just inexcusable percentages for a guy who's a big man. And yes, I know he's a guy who likes to work on the perimeter a lot, and most of the time he's rarely like in the post or anything like that. But shooting 40% is bad for anyone, especially a 6'11" big man. That's just not good at all. He definitely has to work on his finishing, as he should be better at finishing than what he is right now. He also needs to just work on that floater game, because he's not like amazing at it. I see him miss it all the time. He also just needs to fix up his shot selection, because sometimes he just takes some crazy 3-pointers. But overall, he hasn't been terrible. I think he's had a positive impact on his team. His defense still has been really good because he's very versatile. He's been pretty good, but I was just hoping for a little bit more. Dillon Brooks was usually this team's second best scorer, and he's only played like half the games this season. He's also going to be missing a lot more games, as he recently just got injured. In a few games he played this season, he averaged 18 points on not really good efficiency. But the fact that they have been able to win games without him, honestly, is really impressive. And the fact that they've been a really good offense without him is really impressive. I also think when he returns, the team is going to actually be really scary, because he's one of the best defenders in the league, especially one-on-one. I also have to give some credit to Steven Adams, who has actually been one of the better role players in the league. He hasn't been going crazy or anything box score wise. He's not putting up any type of crazy numbers, just putting up a solid 9 points, 7 points, 9 rebounds on like high efficiency. But he's just the perfect center that this team needs, because he's a guy who finishes at the rim. He's also a guy who's like really good on defense. He looked really good on defense, way better than Valanciunas ever was. To talk about more players, this team has a lot of depth. They have DeAnthony Melton, who coming off the bench has been a really good role player, as he's given them 10 points. They also have Kyle Anderson, who a lot of people should know is one of the better role players in the league. Just a great overall game. He's given them 9 points. Tyus Jones is one of the better backup point guards in the league because of his ability to run the offense at a high level. He's given them 9 points and 4 assists off the bench. Brandon Clark is starting to look more like his rookie self, where he was like the most underrated rookie in the league. He's actually turned into a really good role player. Honestly, this is a team that I would fear offensively, because they have John Morant, a guy who can give you 25 points. Then they have Desmond Bane, a guy who can give you 20 points. Jaren Jackson Jr. could give you 20 points on certain nights. Then they have Dillon Brooks when he's back, who's the guy who could give you 20 points. They have 4 guys who could give you 20 points on any given night, and that's not even including a bunch of guys off the bench who are going to be giving them 8 to 10 points. That team's depth is really impressive. They probably have one of the 5 best depths in the league, and the crazy thing is a lot of their players aren't even big name guys. They just know how to play basketball properly, and they know how to play within their roles. To talk about Memphis on the defensive side of the floor, they haven't been as good as previous years, but they still have been a really good defense. At the current moment, they rank 10th in the league on defense. When you look at this roster, it's filled with a bunch of guys who can play defense, but they don't really have a crazy amount of elite defenders or anything like that. I think a lot of the credit has to go to their coach and Taylor Jenkins for incorporating such a great defensive scheme, but you can't act like this team has no good defenders. Desmond Bane's a really good perimeter defender, and he's really strong, so he's able to switch on to multiple positions. Dillon Brooks is also a really good defender. I think he's actually one of the better one-on-one defenders in the league, just because of how hard he plays on defense. Anytime versus the opposing team's starting perimeter player, like best perimeter player, he just always seems like he makes it his mission to lock those guys up. And sometimes he's successful, sometimes he's not, but I just love that he hustles so hard. They also have Jaren Jackson Jr. is a really good defender because of his ability to switch on to multiple positions. He's not the greatest at guarding big man one-on-one, but his versatility is what makes him so good. Steven Adams is actually one of the best defensive centers in the league because of his ability to just know when to help. He's also really good at guarding opposing team centers one-on-one. Overall, Memphis just has a team that can switch a lot. They're a team that have many versatile defenders, and they're a team that could play big, and they're a team that could play small. They have a really good small ball lineup when Jaren Jackson's at the 5, meaning everyone can shoot the ball, everyone can switch on the floor. And a guy like D'Anthony Melton's also a good defender, and so is Kyle Anderson. And John Morant has definitely improved on defense. He's not a lockdown defender or anything, but I don't think he's a bad one anymore. Another impressive thing about the Grizzlies to me so far this season is the fact that they've been able to win games when they've had so much injuries. And at the making of this video, I believe they have a top 5 record in the league. And the thing about Memphis is that they've had a lot of injuries to their top players, miss a significant amount of times, and they've still been able to win that much games. Obviously, every team has dealt with injuries, especially this season with the protocol stuff, but every team hasn't had it as hard as Memphis. Because as I said, Dillon Brooks has only played half the games this season, and he's going to miss more games, and he's like their 3rd best scorer. He's also a big part of their offense. He just makes things easier for everyone else with his ability to attack the rim and occasionally create his own shot. John Morant has missed like 12 games this season, which is a significant amount since they've only played like 41 games so far this season, meaning he's missed like a quarter of the year. Kyle Anderson has missed like 7 games, which is a significant amount of time since they only played 41 games. D'Anthony Melton has missed like 8 games. And I won't lie, outside of those guys, the rest of the roster has been pretty healthy. But when 2 of your top 4 players have missed huge chunks of the season and you have still been a good team, that just shows how good the depth is on this team. And I actually think it's really impressive that their offensive rating and defensive rating is still so good. And I think it would be way better if they were healthy all season. But nonetheless, they really impressed me with that. The final thing I want to talk about with Memphis that really impressed me is the fact that Memphis hasn't had like an easy schedule or something. Like, they haven't just been winning games because they like have easy schedules. They've actually had one of the hardest schedules in the league, and the thing is, they've taken advantage of it and actually beaten some of the best teams in the league and just some good teams overall. They beat the Warriors, who have the best record in the league, twice. They beat the Denver Nuggets twice, who aren't amazing but are still a playoff team. They beat the Utah Jazz, who have the 3rd best record in the league. They beat Miami, who has one of the top 5 records in the Eastern Conference. They beat the Phoenix Suns, who have like the 2nd best record in the league. They beat the Lakers, who although don't look amazing, they still have LeBron James, so beating him is not an easy task. They beat that team twice. They beat the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant and James Harden. Those are a lot of really good teams, all the top teams in the league. They haven't versed the Milwaukee Bucks twice. They haven't versed the Milwaukee Bucks yet, but I actually think they might be the Milwaukee Bucks because they like Memphis literally beats everyone. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are, Memphis will beat you. And that's just something that really impressed me, because that shows that they are a team that can truly be a like real contender somewhat if they can beat all these good teams. I'm not saying their contenders are not, but it is a positive sign that they're beating a lot of really good teams. To conclude the video, Memphis has really impressed me so far this season. Definitely the most impressive team. I just love how John Morant and Desmond Bane are really blowing up. But to answer the question of whether or not I think Memphis is true title contenders, at this current moment, I would say no, because I honestly just can't see Memphis beating a team like the Phoenix Suns or Golden State Warriors in a playoff series, and probably not even the Utah Jazz right now. I don't think that would happen. But I would say Memphis at this point has proven to me that they could be dark horse contenders, meaning they have like a chance to make it to the finals, but I'll never ever predict them. The thing holding them back is just the lack of experience on this team. I just have to see them in the playoffs. But the thing that like held me back from like not saying like they have I could have just went and said they have 0 chance to make it to the finals. The reason I give them a chance is because they've beaten so much of the best teams so far this season. So I'm definitely not sleeping on Memphis, I promise you that. But I don't think it's crazy to say teams that are like way more experienced, like the Suns, Warriors, or Jazz, are just simply better. But I do think they are the 4th best team in the Western Conference right now. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think Memphis is real title contenders. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to help my goal of 3,000 subscribers, drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all